So today's reading is Luke 17, 1 to 10. Jesus starts by talking about the things that cause people to sin. I don't like the NIV translation of that because that whole phrase is one word. It's not the Greek word hamartia for sin, it's scandalon, a stumbling block. It literally means a bent twig. You know, the idea of trapping an animal, you bend a twig down, you put a noose on and a bit of bait. That's what it's talking about. And that's exactly how temptation and sin works, doesn't it? We can be like that mouse, that animal sniffing around, ooh, a little bit of cheese, ooh, I fancy that, I'm tempted, and then bang, you're trapped in a snare. That's how sin works. And yes, we need to be on our guard for things like that lead us into habits like drugs or pornography or the flirtations that lead into adultery. But I think also from Jesus' teaching towards Pharisees, we have to be aware of putting stumbling blocks in the way of other believers. Heavy religious duty. You must do this, you mustn't do that. The oughts and the shoulds that we associate with religious behaviour that rob people of the easy yoke of Jesus, the grace of God. And Jesus seems to acknowledge that we may be led into sin, but the condemnation, the judgment is for those who put the snare in our way. And I think it's important to recognise that, because when it says things that cause people to sin, we don't want to have that, you know, when my kids go, oh, the bigger boys made me do it, they caused me to do it, someone else is responsible for my sin. No, we have to take responsibility and be on our guard against temptation. And then it talks about if your brother sins, rebuke him. And how we do that is key. It's not about going around pointing out the speck in our brother's eye whilst ignoring the plank in ours. It's not about being morally superior. Hey, you're doing that and it's wrong, and you're doing that and it's sin. That's not how it works. I'm thankful for people over the years who have loved me enough to say, John, I've just observed how you talk to your kids at times when you're stressed, and the lack of grace and the harshness, and I just wanted to point it out and maybe we can process it. It's about that sort of accountable relationship that helps us to walk into freedom. It says if a brother repents, forgive him. And up to 7 times in a day, it's just metaphorical. It's a lifestyle of continuous forgiveness. It's about living in community in a way that we don't take offence, that we don't bear grudges. Now, the disciples, they're not daft. They realise that to live in that way, where we don't reject people, where we don't push people away because we don't like what they've said or done to us, that requires great faith. Faith in God, a trust in God that He knows that He cares and He will lead us through it. In fact, I think it's a hallmark of Christian maturity. If you find that you take offence at people, that you get offended, that you take the huff with people, then ask God to give you a deeper faith and trust in Him. Because I believe it's possible to live in community without taking offence. We then move into this little parable, and it's a challenge, this parable, to how we view the grace of God and our identity in God. Because yes, we are sons in the royal household, daughters in the royal household, but we are also servants, and we've been given a mission and a purpose. Perhaps the idea, verse 7, of ploughing and looking after sheep is about the kingdom activities that relate to that. Perhaps the coming into the house to prepare supper and to wait on the Father is about covenant identity. But whatever way we look at it, the issue is our heart attitude. Are we doing those things? Are we living the Christian life because somehow we think we deserve thanks and recognition for it? Or are we doing those things, are we living in that way out of thanks, out of recognition, out of thanksgiving for what Jesus has done to bring us into God's royal household as sons and as servants, out of recognition of the great purpose and plan that he has given to us that creates meaning in our lives. So whatever it is, it's about thanksgiving and recognition of who God is, rather than somehow we need to be celebrated and thanked for what we have done in the kingdom.